broadcasting here for YouTube. All right, so there you go. Officers under seminar under duties. Okay, so to start our session, first part of the session, let us invite the presence of God to be with us in these proceedings, and let Him guide us and open our minds so that we can understand well our duty and that we can perform it according to His will. So I'd like to ask everyone to kneel in prayer. Shall we all kneel and pray? Thank you. Merciful and kind, loving, eternal Father in heaven, we are so glad that we can come to Thy presence this morning to thank Thee for this wonderful privilege that we can join together in this seminar for the church officers to know our duties and to be reminded of our work. We thank Thee, Lord, for guiding us through so far, and thank You for sending Your holy angels to guard and protect us from all harm and danger. Thank You also for the fellowship of one another, for granting us life and strength and health. And we ask Thee to preside over this meeting and open our understanding and mind with the light and wisdom that we may know how to direct the work. And we pray that each of us will be able and willing to perform the work that You have given us. Please forgive us all from all the sins that we have done in thoughts, words, and actions. For we ask all these things in Christ's most precious name, we pray. Amen. All right, so officers and their duties. This is part 1. And this is based from the Church Officers Guide of the Seventh-day Adventist Reform Movement General Conference. The Church Officers Guide was written or was published a long time ago. So some of the contents might not be updated depending on the area or country that we are setting in. But basically, the contents tells us some of the basic guidelines for our duties, right? So yeah, some of them might not be applicable or to these days, but yeah, I'm saying that from time to time we need to be oriented with our tasks and duties. So there are church officers. We know that. We have our business meeting and election of officers every year for local church and for the field. And also we had for the union, we have every 3 years, and some of the conference in Australia within the AUC, they have their annual, oh no, it's not annual, but it is a delegation session every 2 years. Those are state conference. However, for the union, that will be every 3 years. And we will have one this year, year end. So we have delegates for that, for our union delegation session. Now, the officers of the church are elected according to the need. In other words, if an office is not needed, then we don't need to decide or to put somebody to be in place. Or if we need another office which is not actually listed, like for example, we have a new one, the media, which is a new one actually. And the first institution that had this media department was our union. And well, some of the state conferences and mission in our AUC, they have already set up their own particular media system in their churches. However, some of them does not have any media department, although they have set up the equipments and so forth. But if you want, if the church wants to select a person for that department and create a department, then there will be no problem. But I'm saying that it depends on the church. And the officers of the church, they are elected according to the need. If it is not needed, then we don't need to create one. And if it is needed and we need to create one, then it's up to the church. And when only a few members make up a group or a church, it is not necessary to have all officers needed in the church or many members in the church, many members. Yeah, depending on the size of the church, then yeah, we don't have, if only a small numbers of members, then they don't need to have much officers compared to those that had many, like some churches in Brazil, they have 500 members, so they might need many officers, to cater for the needs of 500 members. But as the church grows, more officers may be elected. And the election of any office in the church is left to the decision of the local board, in harmony with the decision of the church and the field. But from time to time, the local board, for example, or the committee, can elect an officer of the church, depending on the need. But we do it actually most of the time if it is convenient or if it is really needed. And naturally, we do it on the business meeting when all the churches are present. But there are cases that the board can or may decide in between time. Now, these are examples of the usual officers of a church that are listed here. First, we have the elder, must be ordained or eligible for ordination before entering the office. And a large church may have 2 or more if necessary. But in our local church here, we don't have elder, but we have only leader. So there's a difference between elder and actually leader, because an elder is an ordained person. A leader could be, qualified person, but not ordained. Now, the next, after the elder or leader, we have church clerk or the secretary. Well, that's why the old term, they call it a church clerk, but actually it is a church secretary. And the treasurer, we have the church board or the committee, and the deacon. 2 or more may be elected if there's need. And besides the deacon, we have deaconess. 2 or more may be elected if there is need. And after that, we have the auditor, and the conference or field treasurer or his deputy. In a local church, actually this is the guide of our church says that the auditor of the local church should be the field treasurer. If the church decides to have an auditor of their own, that will be fine. But the field treasurer is also the auditor of the local church. Now, 8, Sabbath School Department. And the Sabbath School Department, it is a department. It has the superintendent, the one that leads the meeting. It has the secretary, the one that jot down the programs, and it's like the minutes of the proceeding of the Sabbath school from the start to the end. And the teachers, adults, and children. So those are the basic composition for the Sabbath school department. And also the missionary department must have a leader and a secretary. And the young people's department must have a leader and a secretary as well. And if we have, if the members are keen to music, or if there's a qualified person to lead them in music practice or studying another song, then there must be a need of a director of music or music director. And the 12 is the librarian. So these are example of officers elected for a period of 1 year, and usually it commences with a calendar year, in other words, from January 1. Okay? So that is the ideal, that is within the calendar year. But for some cases, it might be adjusted. Okay? So departmental officers, such as Sabbath school, young peoples, maybe, they can be elected in each 6 months. Every 6 months. But nevertheless, if the church decide as the common practice to be 1 year, that's no problem as well. Now let's move on to the responsibilities of the officers. And the first part will be talking about the elder of a local church, the secretary, and the treasurer. So the elder of a local church. So the title elder applies to those who have been ordained as such and should not be used as a courtesy title for other leaders. In our church organization, there are 3 roles that are ordained. The first one is the minister, the second one is the elder, and the third one is the deacon. So 3 roles that are ordained. And one of them, the title is elder. So when a church has an elder, meaning it is understood that that person who holds the title elder is an ordained person. But if a person leads the church and he's not an ordained elder, then he is only called as a church leader. Okay? And the elders, some of the churches with big membership have 3 or 2 or many elders, but they are responsible for unto the church that elects them. So their work is only for the local church that elects them, and has many of the duties and responsibilities of a minister in reference to the church. In other words, there are responsibilities and functions that an elder, ordained elder, can do like a minister. And while he is responsible for the conduct of the services and the meetings, he will always defer to a minister if one is present. And the elder, where practicable, should be married and have his house and children in order and be of good report both without and within the church. So this is the ideal, according to our guide. The Bible speaks as well in 1 Timothy chapter 3, 2-7, that an elder must have children. Or any person that holds an ordained capacity should have children and should be married. That's the ideal. But in some cases, I know that in our practice here in AUC, like we have some ordained persons, but some of them were actually, but only a few cases, but they were ordained even they were without children or at least they are married. Now, I was ordained as a minister. I was ordained as a minister. That was even before. I'm not sure if. I think I have only a child, Adelaide. That was, when she was little, and so that's the case. Now, an elder may, in the church that elected him, officiate at the communion service, conduct baptisms. So, an ordained elder, a minister, or an ordained deacons can serve and officiate in the communion service. In other words, he can distribute the emblems, the bread and the wine. And that's the same with the deacon and the minister. So there are similarities. They have similarities between the three: the minister, the elder, and the deacon. Both of them can serve in the communion service and conduct baptism as well. And they can even preside over business meetings and those meetings to fellowship or transfer members. Okay. Now, the elder is responsible for all meetings and should always be prepared to lead out in Sabbath service or any other meetings if one appointed does not come at the time set for any reason. Yeah. So, in other words, the elder should be ready always, if somebody could not make it. Or the church could, for example, elect an assistant, assistant to the Sabbath school superintendent, assistant to the missionary leader, assistant to, young people's leader. So that if the leader is not around, then the assistant can take over. So that's one of the arrangement. But if any of those could not make it, then the elder should be ready to come at the time set for any reason. Okay, he must be prepared to lead out then, if in case that the leader where a missionary leader is elected, he works closely with him. So in our church, usually in any church that we have always a missionary leader. So the missionary leader and the leader or the elder can work together and work along closely for the plan of the missionary work for the church. And the elder or the leader may arrange for the establishments of branch Sabbath schools in the area. That is, cooperating with the Sabbath school leaders, but he is not authorized to ordain elders or deacons, not to organize group or churches. So there are limitations, to their role. Yes, they can cooperate in establishment of another branch Sabbath school together with the Sabbath school leaders, but only the elder and the deacon or the leader are not authorized to ordain elders or deacons. That is the work of the minister. Ordaining elders and deacons or a minister is the work of the minister, of course, with approval with the recommendation of the church. Yeah. That is, so there are limitations, but it doesn't mean that they cannot work. So, I repeat here that they could establish the elder and the leader can help, open another branch Sabbath school, but not to ordain elders or deacons, because those are work of the minister. And when the time comes for them to be organized, he will call a minister. So, for example, if there is for example, in the place of Brother Joseph, they want to organize a branch Sabbath school, or they want to organize a church, okay? A new group, a group there with a leader and officers. So they have to, a minister should come, not the elder, not the deacon, but it is a minister that should come there to formally organize a new group or a church with the officer. Now, the elder or the leader is not an ex officio member of the nominating committee, especially if he is eligible for re-election. In other words, during the election, during the meeting for re-election of officers, the elder or the leader should not be a member of the nominating committee. Okay? He should not be a member of the nominating committee. Well, actually, in our rules for selecting the nominating committee, the elder, the secretary, and the treasurer are the main persons that are not to be members of the nominating committee. And the elder works closely with the treasurer. Yes, he has, as we know that he has so many roles and functions and duties, and one of them that he will work closely with the treasurer to train the members to be faithful in tithes and offerings. Yeah, so we can touch that later on, the duties of the treasurer. But the leader should work along with his officers, and especially the treasurer, in making that the members are faithful in tithes and offerings. Now, a counsel from Testimonies to Ministers, page 306. Now it says, let the neglected tithes to be brought in. Elders of churches or leaders or elders of churches, do your duty. Labor from home to home, that the flock of God shall not be remiss in this great matter, which involves such a blessing or a curse. Okay, so yeah, that's the work. That's the duty of the elders of churches or leaders of churches. And the elder is elected for 1 year, but may be re-elected for further service in succeeding years. So yeah, you can put the same person for succeeding years, especially if he's ordained. Now, his ordination is permanent so long as he is faithful and able to perform his duties. Yes, the ordination of a person in our church, that is a permanent. Only apostasy can revoke the ordination. In other words, I mean that if a person was ordained and he resigned from the church membership, so his ordination will be canceled and revoked. And even if he will be rebaptized, he will not be able to get back his ordination, and he will not be ordained again if he resigned from the church membership, or if the same true with in the case of apostasy. But if he remains faithful, if he remains church members, that ordination is permanent, and that is recognized all over the world. Wherever you go, your ordination remains as long as you are a faithful church member in our church. Now, if he is called to be an elder in another church, he does not need to be reordained. As I said, that ordination is permanent, so he doesn't need to be reordained back. If he's only remain as a member and faithful members of the church. And one thing is, the elder, the ordained elder, may be elected as an elder by a nearby church also, and can serve both concurrently. Like, for example, if another church needs somebody, to serve them as their elder or leader, then it could be he can do both concurrently. But usually the elder of that particular church only serves in that church. The other church should have their own elder then. Yeah, that could be the best arrangement. So far, those are the basic duties of the elder. Now, when it comes to the church secretary, yes, the church clerk or the church secretary. Now, the church secretary is one of the important church officers, and serves as the secretary to all business meetings of the church and must record the minutes of such meetings in the books provided for that purpose. We know that, he's always the session or the secretary for the session, for the board meetings, for the business meeting, and they have records. And the secretary keeps a register of members. So so he or she monitors the members, the register, in other words, the records of membership, the date of fellowship, meaning the date of baptism, the transfer, or their decease. So we have records here, actually. Yeah. And when talking about church secretary, all correspondence should be written by him or her. So in other words, the person is the hand of the church. All communication, correspondence should be written by her. For example, letters of transfer, that is incoming and outgoing members. So if members would decide to transfer from one country to another, so that is the work of the secretary to write the letter of transfer. They are handled and filed by the clerk as well. So all correspondence, they are all kept on file. And when a member in another area desires to be transferred to the church, he should request a letter of transfer from the church where he has membership. So we know that already. And in our union, we have this kind of electronic membership role. You have only to sign in. I'm not sure, I was not able to review that for a long time. And but in Brazil, for example, the Bible worker assigned to an area, he has always these records of how many members under his lookout or supervision. And I saw one, and I met one of the Bible worker, and he showed me about his records of all the members he has in different churches. Yeah, so I saw one of the church. He showed me that these are the members of this church, and look at their status. Some of them are, he put, they're active, not active, and so forth. So he has all those names, and of course. For the secretary of the church, we have to monitor always the membership statistical data. And the clerk or secretary receives the letter and presents it to the board for approval and the vote of the whole church. In other words, if there is a member of another church would come and would ask to join here, so the work of the secretary is to make sure that that person has a letter of transfer from their church, and secretary should present it to the board for approval, and then it should be voted by the whole church. All right? Yeah. So the person should be accepted by the whole church. Members moving to another area should request the clerk to send a letter of transfer. And when a member has been voted in, the clerk should notify the first church clerk so that the transfer may be recorded in the name canceled in the register. So the communication is very important so that to avoid double membership, because some there are cases of double membership. A person has name on one church, and when he moved to another church, he was accepted, but without removing the name on the previous church. So he has double membership. So to avoid that, then that's the work of the clerk. Should be strictly monitored that the member that had been transferred should have only one membership church. In other words, only one record that his name is only in one church, not in two churches. Well, yeah, after a baptismal ceremony, the names of the new members' fellowship should be recorded in the register of members and a copy sent to the conference field mission and office. That is every quarter. So we have, it should be included, we have baptism in this particular month within this quarter. So they have to put the, Sister Lydia actually had forms sent out to us and for quarterly report of our membership. So it includes our present number of membership. Then if there is an addition or subtraction, they have to put the reason. What is this addition? Is it transfer or it is baptism? What is the reason for the minus? Is it apostasy or resignation? So yeah, you have to put that on the report, especially going to the conference or to the AUC or to the field or mission. So another thing is the church clerk is, or the secretary is a property custodian. What does it mean, property custodian? He should have records of all the church property. Like for example, and this, he has to jot down all the property of the church. So it is a tedious work, to itemize all those things, but that is the duty of the secretary. Like for example, local church, we have one building, we have piano, we have furnitures and so forth, equipments. So we have in local church here, like we have all our property in the local church are only in one place, but if you itemize everything here, it will really take time to put them into records. But that is the work of the secretary to itemize all the records, especially of the property, because in the current practice of our church, the secretary or the clerk is usually the property custodian. Now, that's an addition to our old guidelines for the duties of the secretary. Now, talking about the treasurer, yes. Well, the treasurer is also a custodian, a property custodian, but only in particular thing. He or she is the custodian of all church funds, money. Okay? So that is the work of the treasurer. But it comes in many breakdowns. So in every work of the church of God on earth, ever since in the time in the Old Testament, the work of God on earth always involved finances. Always involved finances. In the time of Abraham, you see he gave the tithes to Melchizedek. So it always involved finances. That's why the office of the treasurer is essential. In the time of Nehemiah, he appointed treasurers over the treasury. So it is actually indispensable in the work. When the remnant people went back to Jerusalem under Nehemiah, under Ezra and Zerubbabel, so the treasures, they have treasures that they brought from the king of Persia, and the treasurer is in charge of securing them, so that nothing would be lost on the way. And they make sure that what they receive, the amount that they receive, is the same amount that they have to bring to Jerusalem. Yeah, that was a sacred work, heavy responsibility. But that is the work of the treasurer. That is, the treasurer is responsible to God and then to the church for his sacred trust, of course. Yeah, all of us who accepted the office in the church, we are first responsible to God. Our employer is God. So have to remember that we work for God, and God sees us, and we work for Him. And then we are responsible as well to the church who gave us the sacred work or trust. So remember, we are responsible to God first of all, and then we are responsible to the church who gave us the work. And as a faithful steward, he must ready to give an account at any time as may be reasonably required. Yes, yeah. Of course, you are accountable for the funds that you are holding as a treasurer. Okay. So the church treasurer or the treasurer receives all tithes, offerings, dues, and donations for the church. So that's the work of the treasurer. And the records, or he records the amounts received in the official numbered receipt book, and without any delay, gives a copy to the receipt to the donor. For example, weekly collection. Well, in our setting now, after the pandemic, or ever since before the pandemic, some people are actually doing an online banking. So, online banking is a handy procedure, but there are some that are, giving money during the service. So the same, they have to be both in the banks and in the actual collection should be issued the receipt to the donor. So we call it donor because, in our most of our churches, especially in the first class countries, those who the church is considered as a charitable institution in Australia, New Zealand, in United States, some other parts of the world, that they consider the church as a charitable institution. So if you give or money in forms of tithes and offerings, then you are considered as a donor. The other last month, I received a call saying, Brother Pedrosa, look, I was confused about the statement in our summary because I give tithes and offerings, but it is stated here that these are the amount of her or his donations. So you consider it as a donation, but we give it as a tithes and offerings. So I said, that's how the church is being treated by New Zealand and the Department of Internal Affairs. We are a charitable institution. So whatever amount we give, either it is in form of tithes and offerings, they will consider that as a donation to our church. So there's no problem with the term. Now, in reference to the general or special offerings, we have special offerings from time to time for the needs of different branches of the church, like the first Sabbath offerings or any other like disaster offerings. They are collected during the church meetings, Sabbath school, for example, divine service, young people's meeting, prayer meeting. In churches, like for example in the Philippines, after the prayer meeting on Wednesday, we always collect offerings, for the prayer meetings. And even they have Vesper meeting. In other words, that is a Friday meeting that is before the Sabbath. When I was in South America, we have only Wednesday meetings, which is a prayer meeting, and we don't have Vesper meeting, but we have Sunday evangelistic meeting. So we have Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday. Yeah. And that was really good, that is to encourage one another to come together closely from time to time. So there are offerings to be collected also from the Dorcas, or from Dorcas is another, we rename it today as welfare department. But in the old term that we use in the church, we call it Dorcas. In the Philippines, they said, that's Dorcas department. But later on, we rename it to welfare department. What about ordinance? So offerings during ordinances like like child dedication or communion service, we collect ordinance offerings. And week of prayer every year, during December. 13th Sabbath offering. Yeah. I'm not sure. Before in our church, I remember that we usually collect 13 Sabbath offerings. However, times goes on because of this, because of the popularity of the first Sabbath offering for the special offerings for different missions. 13 Sabbath has been just set aside. So possibility it was replaced by monthly first Sabbath offerings. But yeah, but that depends on the field and the arrangement, And the treasurer must make a separate receipt for each. Like for example, collection for Sabbath school, so the receipt is received from Sabbath school, the amount of this, and also divine service received from divine service, the amount of offering, young people's, the same too. So it should be given a particular receipt. For the reason is that a copy of the receipt will be sent to the department for its record. So each department should have record how much offerings they have collected during the weekly service. So tally it together during the month or during the year. So they have to give a report on that if they have collection. So now, after all the funds are receipted, they should be deposited in the bank into an account in the name of the church, not a personal name. This is the case, brethren. In the first class country, or in most of the like for example in South America, we had a bank account, and it was in the name of the church. But when I started to join or to visit our church in the Philippines before, most of the local churches, they don't have bank accounts. So the treasurer has to keep the money in their house. So they don't have even a bank account. Yeah, that's really dangerous, because it happens one time that there was some amount that were lost. So, well, it was lost, then the treasurer should pay for the loss. Yeah. And that is it is a sacred job, and it is a risky job. But of course, the treasurer is accountable for the funds. So whatever the loss, he should pay that. But with banking, if the church has bank account, I think it solves all the headaches, because all the collections should be receipted, and then the money should be deposited immediately to the bank that bears the name of the church, not the personal account. Yeah. Well, yeah, as I said, if for any reason the church cannot open a checking account or a bank account, the money should be kept in a safe place, and the treasurer should bear in mind that he is always responsible regardless of where the money is kept. Yeah, but even if it is a safe place, it is still not safe. I remember when I went to visit a church. It is a mission office, and the treasurer told me, look, they show me about he showed me about the safe box, the safe box. It was made of steel, but he was sad, telling me, I put money there, heaps of money, but when I come back home, it was, I noticed that the door was open, and I don't know how the person opened the door, but yeah, the money lost. It's a big amount. So even though it is a safe place, nothing is safe. Nothing is safe compared to the bank. Well, the bank itself may may not be the safest, deposit place, because anytime the bank can freeze your account. But anyway, in terms of accountability, the treasurer is safe with that once it is in the bank. So even if the money is not safe, as long as the treasurer should make herself or himself safe from responsibility. Now, each receipt is recorded in the cash receipts journal. I think, this term cash receipts journal is still in use today, especially especially in some churches who are using still, those manual records, like pen and paper. So they call it all right, this is the cash receipts book. But in our setting here in New Zealand, in Australia, we have already the Excel provided for us. So in one page, you can have the receipts and the expenses at the bottom. That's why the basic thing that we have in our Excel record of finances. We have the cash receipts on the top, and at the bottom there is a cash, there's a cash disbursement. So let us see here. Just excuse me for the camera is missing picture. Just give me 2 minutes. I will just change the battery. Excuse me. Okay, that's it. Yeah. Sorry, back again. I could see my face now. Now, so yeah, the financial books that we are using at the present now is in an Excel platform with cash receipts and expenses in one page. Oh, sorry. You don't have there? How come? Right? Okay. I'm not sure in the. Okay. Now, when recording the amount shown on the receipts in the cash journal, proper care must be given to make sure that amounts specified in the receipts are recorded in the proper column of the journal according to the stated purpose. Yeah. So in other words, this is a tedious job, to be meticulous. You need to be meticulous because one figure miss, it would mess up the record. Yeah. That's why sometimes, looking for a cent or 2 cents, 5 cents is one of the can be considered one of the tedious job of the treasurer. Yeah. And all disbursements are made by check where possible. Well, in our setting now, we don't have check, but we pay through online. Well, it's a different setting here in Australia and New Zealand, but before we pay by check so that the records can be retraced easily. Where does this go? Where does this money go? What kind of expenses was this? Yeah. And then the disbursements made by check are recorded in the proper column of the disbursement. The same too with the cash receipts journal. And if the disbursements are made in cash, yes, but I I don't know if in some countries actually most of the disbursements are made in cash. So they are still behind compared to New Zealand and Australia. But here we had disbursements made through check or through online paying. Then the treasurer must do this through vouchers. We don't observe now voucher system. This is an obsolete system. But in some countries and in some before we use voucher system. And the voucher has also numbers, same with the receipts. Okay. It's an exciting job. I know this because I've been a treasurer also before. So we use voucher system. And all vouchers, signed by the person receiving the money whenever possible. Okay. So in this way, a proper accounting can be kept of all receipts and disbursements, and accurate information will be available for preparing the reports. Now, in our modern era, we have softwares for accounting system that can cater different types of business, either it is in the church or any other merchandising business. So the church can use them as well, just customize the accounts and to suit our procedure here. Now the financial reports for the treasurer, there are financial reports that are required of the treasurer, like for example, the reports of receipts and disbursements, that is the cash flow. In other words, that is either monthly or quarterly. So how much money out, how much money in, or money in and money out, and how much money remain in our account. Well, we don't have so much problem because we had our bank issues a bank statement immediately after the close of the month. And since we have already an online banking, so the treasurers, those who are in charge and authorized to get into the account, they can see how much funds left, in general, in the general funds that is reflected in the bank account. So we don't have so much issue about this. And of course, there is a monthly report. So from the local church, there's a monthly report to be sent to the field. And the field as well has a monthly report to be sent to the union, to the AUC. At the same time, the AUC will do the same to the General Conference. So the report of receipts and disbursement can be broken down into two categories. So in other words, the money that we receive here, the funds that we receive here in the church, are actually not all of them can be used by the local church, because some of the money belongs to the conference or field or mission. But the funds that will be used for the local are designated in the in a particular paper by the receiver, and this is the local church. For example, this is the tithes is not for the local church, but it is forwarded to the field and to the union. So so that is the case with the receipts of money. Not all money that we receive here are for the local church. Most of them are actually for the field and for the union. Like for example, the tithes. So that is to be endorsed or reported to the field. What about the first Sabbath offering? The first Sabbath offering is not either for the local church, nor for the field, nor for the AUC. It should go to the General Conference, and the General Conference will distribute it to the intended project. So, but it is collected in the local church. So that's the case. And the same thing with disbursement. So funds that are received and disbursed for the local church. And of course, the board should be informed, either depending on the procedure of the church, depending on the agreement, should be monthly or quarterly. Quarterly, that is during the meeting. They have the board meeting. So the board has the right to know the financial condition of the church. And yeah, at the end of the quarter in the business meeting, for example, if there is a business meeting quarterly for the entire church, which is the case at the big church. So yeah, I know some big churches they have always this, they have this quarterly business meeting. But I'm not sure in Australia and New Zealand, mostly here are done by, the quarterly are only done by the local board. We have only business meeting every year. But that depends on the church. If the church will have business meeting every quarter, the same with the board will have meeting every quarter, that's depend on the church. Yeah, the church should agree about that. But what I'm talking here, that in every business meeting, the treasurer should give a financial report. Now, another duty of the treasurer is this. The treasurer does not only collects and disburses the funds, but also watches as far as possible that all members pay their tithes and offerings faithfully. Yeah. That is one job. And we read before that together with the elder or leader of the church, they should help one another to remind the members to pay the faithful tithe. And he should assist the elder and the deacon in warning the people against the unfaithfulness in tithes and offerings. So it mentioned here as well the deacon that is responsible for giving the people an encouragement to become faithful in paying their tithes and offerings. But we will discuss later in the part of the deacon. But yeah, the treasurer is also a person that will give encouragement to the members to be faithful in the matters of tithes and offerings. So all copies of the report we send to the field or to the union, for example, we should leave a copy for the local church. And so far we have a electronic copies here, and we don't have so much issue on that. But that's because that is proper. And the report should be approved by the members. In other words, and signed by the elder and the treasurer. That is during the business meeting, of course. So yeah, that's why we ask all in favor to accept the treasurer's report like that. Then members should say yes or no. Now, where possible, all money should be banked regularly and all payments made by check. So we clear out that. And checks are signed by the treasurer and the countersigned by the elder. Now, it is a common practice among churches that the elder and the treasurer should be signatories of the bank. Okay? But that depends on the arrangement of the church again, right? But as a procedure, you usually, even in Australia, the treasurer and the leader or the elder are the ones that sign or countersign the check. And then the church money is banked in the name of the movement or church. Yes, the church should never keep church money. Well, for the safety of the money and for the safety of the treasurer, because if the money lost, the treasurer should pay for that. But we don't have issue about that because we have banks already, and we have online disbursements and receipts. And yeah, banking should be on a regular basis, and the amount of money should not be allowed to accumulate in large sums where it is not secure. Yeah, that's why weekly should be there. We must be she must be do the the money should be deposited in a weekly basis. Yeah. For example, we have collections on Sabbath. Then Sunday, there's no office or there's no bank open. So by Monday, it should be deposited immediately to the bank. Now, among the fundings here, we have the conference funds. In other words, yeah, that's why we stated earlier that not all monies that we receive here is for the local church. Some of them belongs to the conference. And these are example of the conference funds. The tithe along with other offerings listed below. I have it here. They are sent. Actually, all the tithes and other offerings listed in this particular slide, over this slide here, are the property of the conference, and it should be sent to the field treasurer. So there's a local treasurer that will communicate to the field treasurer, this is the money intended for that, for your field. So like for example, the tithes, as I mentioned earlier. So this is not for the local church. This is for the conference or the mission. And then the tithe of the local church offerings and other income. So of all the income of all the offerings for the local church, 10% of that will also be forwarded to the mission. And then we have the first fruits offering, the first day offering, missionary offering, Sabbath school offering. Yeah, of course, yeah. So the Sabbath school offering is always every Sabbath. You know, if there's no Sabbath offering, then we can say that, oh, is there any Sabbath school then? Did you take a service of the Sabbath school? Now every meeting that we attend, the Bible said that do not go into the house of God empty-handed. So some do not give in their money here, but they give online. That's acceptable then. But I mean, there's no reason that there will be no Sabbath offerings, because this is one of the big branches of the church, missionary as well. And thanks offering, like birthday, when you reach your milestone, like 60 years old, 65, some people, give, and every year they give thanks offering. Like anniversary, birthday, and other celebrations. For example, yeah, we should thank the Lord for that, and thank the Lord that we're able to come up to this another celebration. So in form of money, we have to give to the Lord. The first Sabbath offering, is always intended for the projects abroad. And in every quarter, we have 3 first Sabbath offerings. So we have to remember that, brethren. Now, week of prayer, that is during December, once a year, we have week of prayer for the missions around the world. Foreign mission offering. Yeah, it could be included in the first Sabbath offering, or I'm not sure. But usually, the foreign mission, we usually incorporate it now to first Sabbath offering. And there are special offerings and donations as well, like, if there are special projects, like LM Heights, like we give the donations to some other people that were victims of floods and calamities. So they are to be forwarded to the union or to the field. Now the church funds, for example, so conference funds and church funds. Yeah, so church offering. So the Sabbath school. We have also Sabbath school here. So we have local Sabbath school, and we have the divine service or Sunday night meetings or Vesper meetings. So these are the money collected there will be for the church. Now in the arrangement of the union for us here, for the Sabbath school is that there is a percentage of the amount of the field Sabbath school that will only goes to the union. So it's not 100% that will goes to the union, but a certain amount, a big amount, that will be retained by the field for the use of the field for the Sabbath school, which is a better arrangement. But according to the agreement of our union, if we are not going to use that money, then they will take it out. So better that we have to create some project and to spend our Sabbath school offerings, or else they will take it. But that is so the remaining portion of the Sabbath school will be for the church use. Prayer meeting. Yes, we mentioned that. Young people's offering, ordinance offering, the welfare offering for the worthy poor. And we have poor fund in our church. Yes, although we do not, shall we say, we do not actually tell the people to give to Dorcas or welfare offering, but most of the brethren actually putting money on the poor fund. Then church dues, like for example, what are the dues for the church? Well, if you have a camp meeting, either the local church will collect the dues for the field and forward the amount to the field, or the field itself. So that's our example of church dues. So pledges. If we have certain projects and we pledge certain amount, then that belongs to dues. But in New Zealand, for example, since all the money are treated as donation, so any money that you put to the church, it could be better to put that on the offerings, like donations, because every year when tax refund is due from IRD, so you can also give that amount to the IRD, and you will have a third part of that returned to you. This is a good arrangement here. And I heard one of the brother in the Philippines, telling us, "Oh, you're from the country where where the government refunded you when you give the tithes and offerings." So I said, "Yes, that's a privilege of every people who donated to the charitable institutions, especially churches." So any special offerings or donations and other income. So these are examples of church funds. Yeah. So brethren, I hope that this matter will be clear to us, and if there's any question, we can entertain that. But this is the end of the first part of our session here. So we will have a break. Sorry about that. We have some inconvenience here. It takes a little time. So we may have, shall we have like 15 minutes break then? We will be back by 11:15. So we'll have a break. Then we will go to the next part, second part. And before that, okay, all our things. All right, so we will go to the next part then after the break, 15 minutes break, okay? Okay, no worries, yeah. So we have a break. Thank you. So Stewini, we have a break for 15 minutes. Thank you, sis. So 11:15, we'll be back here.